I'm gonna try to do this without a script. Wish me luck. Hey, I'm Ben. I'm a huge fly fisherman, and in today's video, we're gonna talk about trash fish. If you're not familiar with that term, trash fish are fish that are considered less desirable because they're not good for eating or they're not game fish, like they don't fight hard. I think some trash fish get a bad rap. Lots of these fish have redeeming qualities. Wish we could say the same about you. So today I'm gonna talk about a bunch of different trash fish and try to find some good things to say about them. I know that's not really like me to say nice things, but new year, new Ben. This is gonna be USA specific because America, these fish aren't gonna be in any particular order. I'm gonna jump around a bit, and there might be a couple hot takes at the end. Let's start with carp, a trash fish that probably everyone has heard of. You know, in Europe and Asia, carp have always been highly regarded, both as a food fish and as a game fish. But Americans always have to do things differently, so over here, they're not very well liked. But I'm telling you, just like the imperial measurement system, we got this one wrong. I think there are three main reasons why Americans don't like carp. One, they don't taste good. I can actually vouch for that when I have eaten carp and it was not good. I think you're supposed to let them sit in the bathtub for like 4 days before you eat them. Number two, people think that carp will make the water muddy. Do you know why you see carp in muddy water? Because they're one of the only things that can live there. I know plenty of places where carp live in clear water and they're not destroying the lake. Sure, they root around in the bottom, but they're not gonna turn your whole lake muddy. But the real reason that Americans don't like carp is because they don't understand them. I feel you on that one, carp. Carp are an awesome game fish. You can stalk them and sight fish them in shallow water. They fight hard and they make runs. And sometimes it can be challenging to get them to eat your fly, which I'm gonna put in the plus column. Also, a lot of people think that carp are ugly. I disagree. Look at those big, beautiful carp lips. I think carp are great looking fish. You know that koi and carp are the same fish, just a different color, right? Why are you judging carp on the color of their scales, huh? All right, for the next trash fish, we're gonna get a little salty. How about the ladyfish, the financially disadvantaged man's tarpon? Ladyfish are pretty awesome for that first 3 seconds when you think you have a different kind of fish on the line. Have you ever brought a ladyfish into the boat? How'd that work out for you? In case you're not aware, they're known for spraying poop all over the boat. Are you watching this with a kid right now? Let's say it again. Ladyfish do make great shark bait though, I can verify. All right, let's jump back in the freshwater and we'll talk about a group of fish called suckers. Another fun thing to say. My favorite thing about suckers is that they're a native fish to the United States and there's all different kinds of them in all these different river systems. Some are super common, some are pretty rare, but they're all special. Some of them even get pretty big. I've caught a few 5-pound suckers and yeah, that's a good time. It's pretty easy to nymph them up and sometimes they'll actually smash a streamer. And just like a ladyfish, suckers make good bait. I want to take a minute to give a special shout out to the northern hog sucker. Again, a fun name. I grew up stomping around in smallmouth rivers and I have wanted to catch a northern hog sucker forever and I've never even come close. I know it can be done. It's on my list. Another fish that I grew up seeing in those smallmouth rivers that's considered a trash fish by some is a fall fish. Kind of a nondescript silvery fish, but they've got some personality. You can nymph them up, they'll rise to dry flies, but I think the best thing about fall fish and a lot of these other trash fish is that it's better to catch them than nothing at all, right? Kind of similar to fall fish are chubs. Man, a lot of these are really fun to say. Chubs. Again, it's a native fish just out there doing its thing. You can go catch them, and it's better than catching nothing at all. All right, next trash fish, the bowfin. These fish are actually super cool. They're also called mudfish, dogfish, grinnell, or shoepick. I know they're really old, like older than tarpon. Let's look it up really quick. Early Triassic, 250 million years ago. That's how long these fish have been around. That's nuts. Bowfin are cool because they're mean predators. They want to kill stuff. I was lucky enough to get one time. We were actually trying to fish for redfish, but we found a bowfin. Oh well. And it jumped. I was not expecting that. Bowfin are cool. I want to catch more. In that spot where I caught that bowfin, we also saw some buffalo. There are two different kinds, big mouth and smallmouth. I can't tell them apart. Bowfin are probably most known for being confused with carp. Sure, they look alike, but they're not the same. And like these other fish we've been talking about, the buffalo are native. They belong there. Similar to carp, they can be difficult to catch. I got one on a Clouser minnow one time, which I still can't explain. All right, next trash fish. Let's talk about catfish. Not a real common fly rod fish, but it does happen. Why aren't more people fishing for catfish with fly rods? I mean, fried catfish, come on. And I know there are some places where you can actually sight fish for flathead catfish. That sounds like a good time. I am gonna have to bash the saltwater catfish though. The hard heads and the gaff tops. They're so annoying to catch. They're super slimy. I don't want to touch them because they'll spike you with their poisonous fins. Do they have any redeeming qualities? Please enlighten me. How about gar? Do you know about those? There are a bunch of different kinds and they're all worth catching. I mean, check out the alligator gar. This thing's a dinosaur. Speaking of dinosaur, I know gar have been around a long time too. Let's look that up. 240 million years. You gotta respect that. Gar even inspired a whole new type of fly to use to catch them. Rope flies. You don't hook the fish, you tangle a rope up in its teeth, and that's how you catch them. I'm gonna give you a little bit of homework before our next video. Look up ganoid scales and write a 3-page paper on it for me. Whoops, I just went through 2 other fish and forgot to hit record. Let's try that again. From gar, we're gonna go to another toothy fish, the northern pike. Now, it might surprise you to hear me call pike a trash fish because they're definitely considered a game fish in some areas. But I learned something on that muskie trip I did a while back. Those Wisconsin boys do not like pike. I think it's mainly because they're just a smaller version of what they're really trying to catch, but also I think it's that when they catch a pike, it's kind of like getting jacked. Now, if you don't know what that means, picture yourself on the front of a skiff fishing for tarpon. You've made a great cast, here comes the tarpon, you're stripping your fly, and then boom, out of nowhere, a jack comes and grabs your fly. And now you've caught a 9-inch jack instead of a 100-pound tarpon. That's kind of a bummer, and that can happen with pike sometimes. Did I get that right, guys? Okay, next trash fish is one of my favorites, the mountain whitefish. I can say some bad things about whitefish. They're super wiggly and annoying to take off the hook. They're slimy. I don't think they smell very good. But there's a lot of cool things about them too. Number 1, they're native. Extra points right off the bat. I personally love catching whitefish because they're a sign of a healthy river. They are the canary in the coal mine. If the river is unhealthy, the whitefish are one of the first to go. So if your river is full of whitefish, don't hate on them. Be thankful that your river is healthy. Quick side note here, and I'd like a scientist to chime in if anyone's watching. I think there are 2 different subspecies of whitefish. Whitefish in the Colorado and Green River Basin are chunky and thick, and they have short little noses and opaque gill covers. Compare that to whitefish in like the Yellowstone or Snake systems. Those fish have longer, thinner bodies, a bigger upturned nose, and those clear cheeks, which is why they're called cheekers. I'm no taxonomist, but I'm telling you, those fish are not the same. All right, next trash fish is the pike minnow. There are 2 different kinds, and they're very different. First, we'll talk about the northern pike minnow. It's a native fish, and there are actually bounty programs out there where the state will pay you to kill pike minnows. One guy actually made $119,000 in a year harvesting pike minnows. The reason they want you to kill northern pike minnows is because they eat baby salmon. So what? They're native fish. They've been eating baby salmon for as long as salmon have been around. Fisheries managers in the Pacific Northwest do the dumbest stuff sometimes. I'm glad they're not in charge of the Colorado pike minnow. Dude, the Colorado pike minnow is bad AF. There aren't many around anymore, but they used to get up to 6 feet long and 80 pounds. That's a freshwater fish native to Colorado and Utah. That's wild. Now, because of things like dams and poor management of flow regimes in rivers, these fish are highly endangered. I personally have spent a lot of time, energy, and money trying to catch a Colorado pike minnow on a fly rod. I haven't done it yet, but I was lucky enough to guide my friend into one and net it for him. I even got to touch it and take the hook out of its mouth. Honestly, it was kind of a magical moment, and we'd spent so much time trying to get one of these fish, and then we had it in the net for about 8 seconds and it flopped out and swam away. I was able to get a quick photo and I've got a wonderful memory of it, and you know what? We're gonna keep trying and get another one. If you've got a line on where to find them, I'm all ears. Just don't leave it in the comments, email me. And just so you know, that round-tailed chub that you caught was not a pike minnow. Okay, the next one might surprise you a little bit. How about bonefish? I know that's a weird one, but hear me out. I went fishing in Cuba one time, and those guides down there had no interest in catching bonefish at all. We could have easily caught 100 bonefish every day, but all they wanted to do was catch permit. Ooh! Just kidding, of course permit are awesome. I just didn't understand why they hated bonefish so much. All right, now final trash fish. Brace yourself, I don't want to upset you. Brown trout. Why do brown trout get so much respect? They're not native, they're invasive. Yeah, they fight pretty good for a trout, and they're fun to catch. They eat dry flies, they're pretty, they're a neat fish, but I think we're giving them a little too much credit. All these rivers in the Rocky Mountain West should have cutthroat trout, but they're full of browns and rainbows. Why is there so much attention given to protecting brown trout reds in the fall, but you never hear about it for rainbows or cutthroats? Or brookies, I guess. Sure, protect the reds, that's great, but what about restoration of native cutthroat trout? That should be the top priority over everything. The real trash fish are the non-natives. In my opinion, any native fish should have priority over an introduced fish, but that's not how it works. Nobody cares about the razorback sucker. Why not? It makes me mad. The native fish are parts of an ecosystem, and when you start taking those pieces out, it's all gonna collapse. But hey, at least you got your brown trout. Okay, and that's enough for this huge fly fisherman video. I hope you learned a little bit about some fish that you didn't know of, or maybe I inspired you to go catch some of these fish that you wouldn't have tried to before. Thanks as always for watching my video today. I'll be back as soon as I can with another video about fly fishing for you. Until then, go hug a sucker and stay huge. The Colorado pike minnow, such a cool fish.